Hi, welcome to another episode of A Big Girl's Guide. I'm your host, Jen PK. Today I have with me Malou. Am I saying that right? Malou?
Yeah, it's Malou Maria Lourdes, but I go by Malou often. So
she is a registered dietitian-nutritionist, and she does and a comedian and a cat mother and a variety of other things, of course. She is a she and a they. But since I'll just be talking to you, I won't have to talk about you in third person. So
sure. Yeah. I'm right here. Yeah, my pronouns are she, they, and yeah, I'm so happy to be here. And may I call you Jen, or do you want to go by Jennifer?
Whatever makes you happy. Just not Jenny, actually. Awesome. Anything but Jenny.
Okay. Gotcha.
It was a while before I let people call me Jen, but then I just became like my stage name thing or whatever. So people just say Jen PK, and then I realized I was just like, fine, whatever, but not Jenny. I can't do that.
That's like me. This is so weird. I think we might have talked about this before, but because my first name is Maria Lourdes, I just go by Maria. And so sometimes people will shorten it even shorter and say Marie. And I've never been called Marie, like in my family or anything, but it's interesting how people try to like give you a nickname that's not your nickname.
Where
and maybe it's loving. I don't know. It's kind of like
short.
Jenny, where it's like, well, yeah, Maria is short. So Marie, it's like, where did that come from? Like, it's a nice name. It's just not my name, right? Like, your name is not Jenny. Your name is Jen or Jennifer.
Yes, I'll take Jen from most people.
Awesome.
And if I happen to go on stage, I guess that's what I'll be. But I'm very big on anonymity, I guess. And I tried to shorten my name as much as I could, so people wouldn't know too much. I talked about this with somebody before. I was just like, I want you to know me, but also don't know me. Know me.
Yeah.
Don't know me.
Yeah, I have boundaries. I was going to say that when I refer to, like I told Thomas I was performing, I was talking with you tonight, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be talking to Jen PK. So I'm glad to know that that's okay to say.
Yeah. Yes. Oh, Thomas. What's he doing?
He is about to go on and stream. He has a streaming regimen, so he's about to go stream tonight. I don't know where he is right now, but I'm here and I know that. So
something about Twitch, right? I keep saying I'm gonna do a Twitch. I always tell my kids that. Help me do a Twitch. Now I sound like an old person all the time now.
One of those Twitch channels, or
yes. It's like, how do you Twitch? Come show me how you Twitch.
If you can do this, I'm pretty sure you could figure it out. That's beyond me at this point, but you never know.
I've seen you on there. It's so cute. I downloaded the Twitch on my TV. I was gonna say,
that means that you have it.
I don't know how to be on it, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm sure I could figure it out, but it's more fun for me sometimes to just sound very old and just show me how to use this printer.
Yeah, sometimes it's nice to be like, I don't know how to do that. Can you tell me how to do that?
Yeah. Well, my kids are like, you could do it. And I was like, no, I'm old now. You're old, so now I am old. If y'all were smaller, then I wouldn't feel as old. But now I feel super old because y'all are, my oldest is nearing 20. So
yeah,
I hate that I can say anything happened 20 years ago. And drives me crazy. I'm like, I've known you for 20 years. I was like, oh, why can't I say that? Gross.
Do people mistake you for their sibling often?
They used to. I get ma'am a little bit more than I did before. But they
gotcha.
When I think, I don't know, like some years ago, they used to think we were like triplets or something like that. Or they thought that my oldest was like, sometimes they'll think he's my boyfriend or something like that's gross.
I know sometimes couples look alike.
I'm like, they look exactly like me. Like, I could not even pretend they weren't mine. So it's like, I'm always trying to convince my oldest one to like put a wig on and go be me somewhere, but he won't do it. I was like, just tell him you lost a lot of weight.
That's awesome.
He won't do it. I was trying to get him to go take a test for me. I was like, I need you to do this. You're smart. He's like,
didn't go so well.
No, he won't do it. He's such a square. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. Well, happy Friday.
How are you this week?
I am doing okay. Let's see. Last week was actually my birthday week for my and so this week was kind of like going beyond the traditional week of different federal holidays and just kind of unlearning what I know about the Thanksgiving holiday, and then also my birthday. It used to be something that wow, it's so funny because before we started, we talked about like feelings, and I forgot that last week was a big feelings week for me of like really unlearning and like loving myself. And I'm away from family and it's COVID time. So it's just like a thing that we're not going to really be together. And so kind of undoing some of those old messages about what it means to be not celebrating in ways that I might have wanted to or that I did in the past. And so it was really humbling to kind of go through it. It felt like a long week. And this week it was kind of like coming up from that of like, okay, along with the grieving, there's action. And so there's a lot of things I've been trying to pay attention and not too much attention to on the news. And I'll say, yeah, this week was another tough one of, trying to have that balance of, okay, got to pay attention, but also have to sidestep and take care of myself. So
I try to avoid
that's how my week was. Yeah, it's a really
I try to avoid the news. I've been doing that since I was pregnant with my first son. So years ago.
I have a skill. No.
I stopped watching the news. Like I have my mom watches it, my dad watches it. If something's gonna go down, they'll call me,
Yeah.
and when heaven forbid when they pass away, because that's life.
Yeah.
Somebody will do it. We'll cross that bridge. Cross that bridge. I don't like, especially like local news is just a lot of scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it goes straight to the fear.
Because incidents are usually very isolated, but they can make it sound like it's like dangers at your door. You know what I mean? And it's like some stuff, I guess, stuff's happened to me, or I don't know, a tragedy happened. I don't know if I want everybody to know about it, but maybe, I don't know. Because there's always, I just know I'm not going to be teaching high school. I'm scared. I just got my teacher certificate and I thought about it and I was like, no, I can't. I'm not equipped.
I hadn't told you, but I am considering teaching secondary and high school too. And I would love to chat your ear off about that later, but it's definitely something that's like, ooh, like you said, kind of knowing what's going on, like, is that something I want to step into, just because it would be a huge change in career for me from going to a hospital and one-on-one counseling, virtual counseling to school district.
Yeah.
And yet I know that it's needed folks who are really wanting to be there and do the work that I feel like you're passionate about and I'm passionate about would be really awesome for the community. And we also have to take care of ourselves.
Definitely have to. I always said I wouldn't do middle school because my mom taught middle school for like 30 years or something.
And tell me about it so you can talk me out of it. No, I'm just joking.
She retired and she was frazzled. So I'm just like, And then I was a teacher assistant with 6th graders some years ago, and those kids were the most. So I was like, because they're in this weird transition from like being a child to they want to be grown, and I can't do grown children. So luckily I just had like a small group of kids because I was technically like special ed, but the kids I had, most of them they were more just like, they had like reading disabilities or something like that. So they weren't the most severe of children that I've worked with before, because I've done special ed a lot. Because I like special ed people the most, like all the like whatever.
Whatever
autistic. I like that. I love working with people with Down syndrome. Like those special ed people are my favorite people. I can deal. That sounds weird. I don't know how to phrase it. I apologize to anybody I've offended, but those are my favorite. I don't think population. It sounds weird.
It takes a special you know, a special person to be a teacher, but to specialize, I mean, there's reasons why there's different job responsibilities or duties and tasks, because it takes a certain type of person who knows how to do it, but also have the compassion to be there. Oh, my phone thinks I'm talking to it. It said, sorry, I didn't catch that. No, Siri. But yeah, I think it takes special people to be able to work with different folks of different abilities, disability, special education. It's, yeah. And I don't think it's, I mean, I'm not spectrum, but I will say that it didn't sound like you said something offensive, but we are open to learning. So we want to know.
Because the things I might say to somebody, you know, my son is like, you got to be careful when you talk, because like if somebody's going to hear you and then they get offended and then you get canceled. And I was like, first of all, I don't care about none of that. Second of all,
we're comedians.
You know, I try to be, you know, myself. So I guess it is different. Like if I was talking to you, you know, as a friend versus now I'm recording this conversation for all to hear if they choose to. I'm trying to be trying to be right. It's different, but you know, I don't mean to offend anybody, but again, special people are my favorite people. They make the most sense to me.
Can I say one more thing on that?
Yeah.
Is I feel like one of the things I'm learning as I do things that are more quote unquote public, or, you know, stepping onto the stage. I haven't been performing comedy as much, but I think one of the things that a lot of people think or will call, I guess I'm thinking about like my spectrum. I'm not like someone on the big stage performing and like acting and doing all those things. But I think as an individual, like if I do something and spend somebody, I think my job is to hear someone out if they're willing to talk to me about it. And then, you know, I can do better by like research, learn and grow versus just say that I'm, you know, like I'm right. Like, which I feel like there's a lot of folks think they go straight to being canceled. And if people get canceled, they get canceled. If I get canceled, I get canceled. But I guess I'm saying like, I feel like there's all these little steps. Like there's times where you can like make a difference in your own life, whether or not you're socially canceled or not, right? To like grow as a person. I feel like that's something that is missing from the conversation of, oh, people are trying to do better and then they like fuck up some more. It's like, well, like, yeah, each individual has to take accountability for like their steps.
Yeah.
That's kind of random. But I feel like I try to remind myself that like,
that's like a constant like topic though. People are always ready to, you know, quote unquote cancel somebody. And it's just like, first of all, if you don't like something, I say don't partake in it. I don't eat chitlins. They don't come in my house. You know what I mean? If you're at your house eating your chitlins, that's on you. It's nasty. And if you ask me, do I want some? I'm say, but I'm not gonna, you know, partake in it. There's some comedians that I do not enjoy, and I do not partake in them. I do, whether they get canceled or no, they're not my flavor, and I'm not gonna listen to them. So I'm just like, I think that's the most you can do, versus just, you know, you don't have to tell everybody you're mad about something. Be mad at home. Yeah, it's one thing I hate and love about the internet is that you can express yourself, but also stop.
Yeah,
just limit your expression, please.
There's no such thing as the perfect or right way to do things, and I think that's like the hard thing about the nuance of just the stuff that we talk about in entertainment or comedy. And I always tell Thomas whenever I go watch one of his shows, stand-up comedy shows, and I don't know who's performing with him, I always, even though I might love everyone that goes on stage, I tell him, if there's someone that I'm not vibing with, or you don't really like enjoy their comedy, I'm just letting you know I'm gonna walk out. But I'm not mad at them or you or the show. I just literally cannot be in the room until they're done. So either I'll miss the rest of the show, or I'm like, I'm just gonna tap out for this comedian and then go back in, type of thing. So yeah, I can definitely relate with that. Like, oh, that's just not my flavor. It doesn't mean I hate comedy. Yeah. Too.
I just don't laugh at everybody, but then again, I don't anyway. Like I have certain friends that if I go see them, even if what they say is not amusing to me, I will chuckle. I give them a little something, you know, because as a comedian, it feels good that you get some sort of, response, hopefully positive response, so you don't feel totally alone up there. You're not doing this
Takes
just
a lot, yeah.
to amuse yourself. Although sometimes I do tell jokes just to amuse myself, but I haven't, I haven't been on this. I was on the stage in September and I haven't been since. I'm just the scene is very strange to me. And I'm also very shy and very lazy. I don't know. So,
Well, I'm honored you're here with me today because I'm down with that.
I was like, I gotta do that's one reason I started the podcast though, is because I was like, there's a lot of COVID out there and I'm not quite ready to be in the space all the time. Like I'm going out tonight because my best friend is singing and it's also her son's birthday, who's my friend, nephew, whatever. And he's fantastic. And I haven't been out in a long time. So it's like, I'll go out and I'm gonna come home immediately and take a bath and stuff because I don't want, I got my shot and everything, but one of my kids hasn't yet. And I really don't want the germs. And I've had COVID and I don't want that again. So it's very nerve wracking. And the thought of going to like open mic after open mic has made me go, because it was already like stressful to think about before COVID to go to all the open mics and you start at the bottom again. Cause I used to be a long time ago, back when I met Thomas, I'd worked my way up from the chairs in the 2 a.m. talking to myself on the stage to people actually being in the room and then to go, back into a whole new group of people because the people I was with, like Thomas, have moved on and are doing bigger and better things. And so now it's, me starting with a whole new group of people and I don't know them. And some of them, I don't like what comes out of their mouth. And so it's like, I don't know how to vibe with you because you're not funny to me. And
super valid.
I was like, how do I fit in with you? How do I fit into this new scene? And I still haven't figured it out. And then COVID happened. And then I was like, oh, now I don't have to figure that out. Thank you, whoever released the virus. No,
I'm happy. I didn't know that, or I think you might have told me how long were you with COVID? If you want to talk about it, you don't have to.
How long did I have COVID?
Yeah, like how long were you dealing with the symptoms and when was that?
I think I still deal with symptoms every once in a while. But I can't tell. But I had it in May. Okay. And my oldest son got it too. And our symptoms were a little bit different. Mine was a little bit worse than his because I had breathing problems and I had to get an inhaler. And but I didn't have to go to the hospital. I wrote it out at home. But I stayed home for like 20 days. Like they told me I could go back after, I want to say 10 days. Because I was working in a school, which is, I'm pretty sure where I got it was from the children. Somebody up there.
From the children.
But because it's hard to keep masks on those kids. I don't know. Somebody had it. Because I didn't really go anywhere but work and home. Like I get my groceries either delivered or have them put in my car and I take it home. So, and I didn't have a social life before COVID and I didn't have it during. So I don't know, but I was staying home. I ended up staying home like 20 days, I think, because they said I could go back because I'd stayed home a couple of times when other people had COVID and I'd been near them. And at first it was like 14 days, all kidding. But then they changed it to 10 days. And so they told me like after 10 days, but they also said if you don't have symptoms, and I was still having trouble breathing and stuff. And I was like, I really don't want to go back and either feel worse or give it to somebody because nobody really knows what this really does. Like they have a vague idea at this point. It hasn't been around forever. At least in this form or whatever, because people say COVID's been around forever. We just didn't, I don't know. Whatever. I'm not a medical professional.
Yeah.
Whatever they say. And I don't watch the news. So what do I know? But then my son had it and he had more like he said it felt like a cold, but there was no mucus really or whatever. It's gross. And he lost his sense of taste and smell. And then every once in a while I can't taste or smell something. So
weird.
or sometimes for him, sometimes stuff will smell weird that used to smell good. So I think that's it. I can breathe now, which is
Yay.
great. But
Oh my gosh.
my youngest one had to live in his room for like a month, basically.
And he didn't get it from y'all?
No, because he had already been kind of hibernating when I got sick. And so he just continued to hibernate. He just, came out for the restroom and stuff like that. And I ordered a lot of Uber Eats and a lot of DoorDash because I didn't know, if I could cook for him or I could do anything, and I couldn't leave the house really. So we ordered a lot of that, bought a lot of wipes, wiped everything down, put it in front of his door, knocked on his door and walked away. If he came out and went to the restroom, we both put on our masks and stayed away, so I ended up having to buy him a mini fridge, which he'd always wanted. And I was like, I guess you're getting your mini fridge, because I kept going, if I give you a mini fridge, I'm never going to see you again. It's like you don't really have to come out, and he really doesn't go in the kitchen anymore. Like he doesn't have to. He'll come in and he'll get load up his pockets with bottles of water and go put them in his mini fridge, and there you go. He does. But I get to see him now, but he doesn't have use for the kitchen anymore. So I'm like, there's food in there, and he's like, I don't go in there. So he's all stored up. It's like, if we had been in there any longer, I probably would have had to call a plumber and get a toilet or something. I was like, you need a sink and a toilet and a microwave, and then you have your own little apartment.
Gosh, it's amazing to hear the different ways that we had to get through that. I mean, we're getting through it still, but to hear the different ways and to be able to find some humility of heck yeah, I get my mini fridge in my room.
Yeah.
I would have loved that if I was a kiddo.
It's never good to get sick. I don't like being sick, but the best time of it was I got to spend some concentrated time with my oldest son. We're always kind of together, but we started watching shows together, and it was just a cute bonding experience of being home with him. And even though I couldn't see the youngest one or whatever, I missed him a lot. So, but we did do a lot of FaceTiming or whatever. Instagram has that thing where you're in the messenger, you can watch shows together. So
I've never done that before. I'll have to try that. Cool.
Yeah, it was he would put on a movie or something, and we'd sit there and hold our phones, and I'd be in my room and he'd be in his room in his apartment.
Yeah.
So you didn't get it though, right? You haven't gotten.
I did not. I got the shot earlier this year, but I did not have to. I mean, I didn't officially ever have it. And I went from working at a hospital to working from home. And then I left my job at the hospital. So now I'm just working with my private practice. And so I've had less and less exposure as time has gone on. Grateful for, but it's still, going to the grocery store and changing all of those things has been a really interesting task, especially, I mean, here in Texas, I'm in Arizona, so I feel like our states did similar things, if not.
Nothing? Oh,
yeah. Those similar things, the things of nothing.
The things of nothing.
The things of no.
Please go out there and do whatever you were gonna do, and don't wear your mask. You're an American. God dang it! Here's a gun.
I feel like what y'all were doing at home was to a T. I was like, cool. And then I realized probably outside of your home, much different with how people handled the situation. So I'm really impressed to hear what y'all did, and all the ways you found to still bond and everything. That's really cool. That's really awesome.
Yeah, outside the house, because I don't like getting sick. And my youngest one, he had asthma really bad when he was growing up, so I really, really did not want him to get sick. So I'm really, really cautious and weird about going out and stuff like that, because I don't want him to get sick, and I don't force him to go anywhere. Sometimes you want to, because you're like, you got to get out of this house. But then I'm like, I don't want to be the reason why you get sick. Because if you get sick, oh God, and then, then I don't know how bad it will be. And also he will hold a grudge. So I'm not going to be the one that makes him go out there when he's not, ready. He was already doing my virtual school, so we didn't have to do any switching of that. I had to teach virtually, which was an experience. It was an experience. I think I liked either teaching all the way in person or teaching all the way online, but the hybrid was very hard. And it was my first year of teaching, and I was studying to be a teacher and in grad school. Like, it was just like too many things for me last year. People were like, are you sure this is when you want to start teaching? I'm like, well, it's too late now. So
yeah, like, this is the time. And it's the experience time to like do something that no one's ever done before.
Yeah. Right? So nobody could really tell me what to do because they didn't know either. So I was like, okay, we'll just figure it out.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. And now I just teach online. So I just teach online right now until something else happens. Gotcha. But your Sound RD is your practice. Yeah, so Sound Nutrition and Body, or soundrd.com. And yeah, I work private practice as a dietitian and offer nutrition coaching and health wellness coaching. But I also am a Reiki practitioner. So Reiki is, are you familiar with Reiki? I think we tried it like far away, but you can tell what it is.
Sure. Yeah, it is a type of energy medicine. Which folks, so I was trained under the Yushui Reiki system, which is under Dr. Yushui, who was a Japanese practitioner, or who basically was the one who kind of built his system there in Japan, and then him and his lineage brought it over to the US to offer different healing systems or healing methods here. And what I will describe it as, it's, if you think about like, often people will think about the chakra system. So we have like the different systems in our body that relate to our overall energetic field. So everything from like my voice that I'm saying, my voice talking, to our cells in our body, everything is like different forms of energy, and it has a wavelength and everything. And what Reiki is offering is to help balance that. So it's like I think Reiki means it's energy, like life force. I think Rei means, Rei is like the energy, and then, or light. Okay, I need to look back at that. And then the Ki is related to like chi, like the chi energy in our bodies. And so Reiki is just another way to help find balance. And so it looks like someone is usually either sitting or they're laying down on like a treatment table, which is often like people call it a massage table. And then just kind of help I guess it's hard to explain, except for just, it's like acupuncture without needles, where we're looking at different energy systems and having intention and sensing energy with our hands. And so a lot of people will receive a Reiki session or have a Reiki session in order to like feel more calm, or to just, feel more relaxed. Yeah. You're just a relaxing person though. Like, I don't know. You have a lot of good energy. I guess, is that, that's why I named your episode A Big Girl's Guide to Protecting Your Spirit, because that's what I get from you. You're very like taking care of yourself. You're a nutritionist. You're very into spirituality of some sort, some kind of, finding your light and taking care of yourself as a whole person. Versus just treating one thing. That's why I was able to eat this chocolate in front of a nutritionist. Because as I ate my mochi ice cream. This is not what you do, but you have a different like take on nutrition and taking care of your body than probably a lot of people do when we think about like losing weight or gaining weight. Some people have to gain weight. That's never been my problem, but I know it exists. Yep. It's different things that we have to, that a lot of folks will come to nutrition, like you said, with a focus on what's going on with my body and my weight or my my labs, my nutrition labs when I went to the doctor. And that's how I was trained, is to like really look at some of those medical objective numbers of what's going on with someone's cholesterol or what's going on with someone's blood pressure. And as I've gone through my, I guess, actually getting into the field and working with individuals, it's less about education and more about being with someone who is trying to learn about their health and find their intuition on what they want to do with their life, with whether it's the eating part or sometimes people are needing to focus on just paying rent, and they their doctor told them to come talk to me about something. And so it's like, how can we honor that it is important to them, but we also have a whole person who's dealing with real life in real time. And thank you for mentioning that theme of, is it protecting your spirit, right? You said. And I feel like that's I feel flattered that you use that as part of our talk today, but also I feel like that's a really great example of kind of what I try to offer folks when we're talking about nutrition or talking about quote unquote self-care. I feel like that word's been co-opted so much that it's like, oh, what's self-care? Oh, it's getting a pedicure. It's like, well, it's a little bit more, there's a wide spectrum of things that can be considered self-care, but in real time, a lot of us are struggling with more than what meets the eye, like the cholesterol lab or I have high cholesterol, that's why I keep mentioning that. So there's all these things. But
I take a blood pressure pill, so we're all doing something, aren't we?
yeah. So it's multifaceted, and it takes. There's a lot of folks who have come before me who have done a lot of food justice, social justice work for me to even consider my unlearning. Like the civil rights movement, when they started the food banks and things like that, and people who have stood up for all sexualities and all types of bodies, and at risk of violence and death. And so I feel like it's something I take seriously as I slowly kind of unlearn what I've learned about, because a lot of what I learned in college was very systematic, and in the end it's colonized compared to things that when we think about health and body, those systems don't fit everyone. And so how can I use the training that I had and then also take the unearned privileges to do the work that really helps the people that I'm working with? So instead of putting people into categories, how can I use these tools to help folks access what they're looking for in their life, like you said, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and in relationship to other people? Because I feel like some of these things become scary and fear-based, and then we start turning in versus asking for help. And it makes sense, because usually when we ask for help, like we talked about with the news and the media, it goes straight into oh, well, if you're this and this, then you're going to die 13 years sooner. And it's just okay, everything goes straight to death versus let's just be people together, and how can we help each other thrive?
Yeah. I did see something not too long ago. It was hot dogs can take 30 years off your life. And I'm like, wow, I should be dead by now. It's not an eatable lot, but I know I've had them.
Yes.
Good Lord. They do that a lot. It's very scary. It's hard. And as somebody who's, dealt with, weight issues, basically my whole life since I was 5, I feel like I've been on a diet or, doing an exercise tape or something. They haven't worked, clearly. I don't like when people bring it up all the time. That's why my nurse practitioner right now is, though, I hate getting on the scale when I go in there, but I know she knows all my stuff anyway. Fine. So I just get on it.
You have a good relationship with her.
I just met her this year because I hadn't had insurance since, I don't even know. So
hey, look at you.
I don't anymore. But I had insurance for a little bit.
Same. So I was gonna say, see, this is the other thing. It's access to having, insurance, and then also just walking into a doctor's or provider's office can be really scary for folks. So anyway.
They
big
can.
picture-wise, yeah.
But it's you don't, it's people, you inherently know when something is not as it should be necessarily, either for health reasons or just because
feels
this
off.
is not what you want to be, and it doesn't always help for it to the obvious to get pointed out. That's when my pediatrician, who ended up being my kid's pediatrician, as nice as she was, we all knew, if they gained a little weight or lost a little weight or something, that was going to be a conversation. And I avoided doing it, but I really wanted to tell her, like, ma'am, you were my pediatrician. And every time I came in here, you told me how much weight I gained or told me I need to lose this much weight. And did it work?
Yeah.
I was like, I proved that does not necessarily work. Like, we're more aware than people think. Like, I'm not under, any kind of illusion or disillusion or whatever that I've got the, Britney body or anything like that. And I know I'm not Tiana Taylor. I'm pretty. And I know I could probably be a lot healthier, but I'm not. I don't need you to point it out to me every 5 minutes. like every time I see you, it becomes a conversation, and that doesn't necessarily work. I think sometimes it makes you go eat a sandwich. Honestly, it's like,
yeah,
like, I'm already here. Let's go enjoy it.
So I have one of the unearned privileges, and I don't know what words or language you like to use, but when I'm working with folks one-on-one, it's like I haven't lived in your body. I haven't lived in my client's body, whether they're plus size or straight size or whatever they, what on the spectrum of how they identify with, like, if they identify as fat or thin or skinny or whatever. Big picture wise is like a lot of providers, and maybe it's old school providers, I don't know, they like to go straight into talking about weight. And like you said, like, the first thing is get on the scale. And there's so many providers who are doing the emotional mental work of like getting away from the scale, because like you said, the scale is not the scale is not, it gives us an idea of how our body is in relationship to gravity, but in relationship to health, it is just like one mini marker. And because someone is fat or someone is thin or straight size, it doesn't mean that they're healthy. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, if they're having weight fluctuations, there might be something to look at, like what's going on for the individual. But it's a bummer to hear that, like, you've advocated for it and you remember going to see her, and then it keeps going and going with your kiddos. So it sounds like you were like, luckily had a boundary and talked with your kiddos probably about it. But it's a bummer to hear that how often it happens still.
I didn't say it to her. I'm really like, I was just quiet, but I would tell my kids before, I was like, just let it go out one ear. I was like, she's gonna say it, and we're just gonna get through it because the insurance says that you need to go get the shot or whatever.
It's like,
we're gonna go do this thing,
jump through the darn hoops so that we can get the things that we need, and just don't take some of those things seriously that she's saying.
And I tell them, I tell them not to. I weigh myself every 5 seconds, but I tell them not to do that. You know what I'm like?
Okay.
So I tell them, I always tell them to be better than me, but I tell them to, if you like what's in the mirror, if you don't like what's in the mirror, then figure out how to make changes or whatever to achieve whatever it is that you want to look at or how you want to feel. But if you feel fine about yourself, and you like what you're looking at, and you're like, hey, I'm a handsome dude or whatever,
yes.
I'm a handsome person, as it were, then, that's all you really need to worry about. Like, who cares what somebody else thinks? Because it's really just about what you feel about it. So, the number on the scale doesn't necessarily mean anything, because sometimes people weigh more and it's muscle. So just,
Absolutely.
you know what I mean? And I was like, some people weigh a lot and it's, fat. What are you going to do?
Yeah, absolutely.
And
I think when I'm working with someone one-on-one, I want folks, like I said, I haven't lived in a super fat body or a fat body or a larger plus size body. And so I try to be like really explicit of like, it's okay if folks want to lose weight or gain weight or whatever they're working on. They want to have more muscle. And I want to work even beyond that, like what beyond body, what are we working on? Because it gets deeper, right? Like you said, like if you look in the mirror and you like what you see, and you're also like, I like who I am, awesome. Like that's a really great foundation. And I think some days like we're probably like higher on that scale, and some days we're not. We have like bad body days or whatnot. But a lot of folks who have a complicated relationship with food or have an eating disorder, there's a lot of messages it's not easy to just like do it on your own. And that's kind of like where I like to sit in the room of like healthcare or helping professional is how can I sit with those folks who are like know what they want to do, have a lot of like chatter of like, this is what I should do, this is what I shouldn't do. And then just really finding like what aligns with your values and who you want to be. And, you know, I like to take things back to like, if you have a positive relationship with your lineage or your ancestors, like how can you think about, you know, how your family members or loved ones, what are some traditional practices and ways of which like brings joy to food and tradition? Because I feel like that's a way to have some, I guess, peace. Sometimes we can have more peace around those things. Because oftentimes food nowadays, it's like, how fast can I eat this food? How can I like throw the like use paper plates? I'm not doing dishes today. You know, all those things. And so it's like, that's absolutely valid that our time to eat and our relationship with food is like not the main focus, and that's okay. And how can we find times to have like those little moments where we can enjoy it and or a tradition or just time with others, like whether it be watching the show on Instagram with your son and we're like having our little snacks or whatever, you know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense, but I feel like that's important to
I hear a lot about that intuitive eating or whatever, and sitting there and thinking about it. And I think the only time that I seriously sit there and think about what I'm eating is when I eat Japanese food, because it's expensive and it's little. Because I know I just paid $80 right now for this piece of sushi and or whatever.
Oh, may I hear what your favorite sushi is, or do you have one?
I know I don't eat actual sushi. Like I know I've had it, but I know real sushi is like with the rice and then a piece of fish over it. And I've had it, I don't know, maybe salmon. There's some like rolls that I like, which I know a lot of the rolls are like for Americans. Like they're not. I
like American sushi too. Japanese American sushi maybe, or
my son takes Japanese classes, so we got the whole like you're not eating. There's this like tower that I like to get all the time. It's like probably supposed to be shared with somebody, but I don't want to. But it's like a giant. it's like a big California roll sort of, but it's got like the spicy tuna on top of it, and that makes me happy, and that's just for me. So it's just like one big thing, but you eat it extra slow because you know I just paid $20 for this one situation for just me, whereas you know $20, you know, somewhere a lot cheaper you could feed the whole, you know, all 3 or 4 of your people, you know, depending on your budget. So it's like you eat. And you know, there's only like a little bit and it's expensive and you just eat really slow and enjoy it, because I don't know if I'm going to spend $80 again anytime soon to feed 3 people. So I enjoy that. I enjoy Japanese food. It's really good. What I've had, you know, I don't know how Americanized the Japanese food I eat. I know one restaurant I go to, there are actual Japanese people that own it. So I'm assuming, but there's probably some Americanism to it because I live in Texas, so we can only do so much.
Like back home. So I was born and raised in Washington State, and I remember there being a Seahawk roll, and I'm pretty sure that's not in Japan. Like the Seahawks, the football team. And I remember I think it had some cream cheese in it and stuff like that. I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not traditional, but you know, sometimes we eat that.
It's good.
Sometimes it tastes really good.
You always talk about how you don't have a lot of, you know, you have a lot of privileges as far as like your body and things like that, but you have a lot that you've worked through and gone through. You're a cancer survivor. you're an Asian woman, which, you know, one of my friends is Chinese, you're Filipino, it's two different things. I keep doing that, but still
No,
you're Asian.
we're Asian. Yeah,
And
I am.
it's rough, you know, like it's hard being a Black woman, but I know it's hard being an Asian person and then an Asian woman on top of that, especially in the society where people are just ready to just hate people for no reason. And they probably call you Chinese and you're like, I'm not Chinese, what is wrong with you? Or Latina, because I've known some Filipino people, and sometimes, and you the language sounds like a mix of Spanish and something else, I don't know. And my kid's doctor is Filipino, so sometimes I would hear her talk and I was like, why does she know Spanish so well? And then Google, and then it turned out this some sounds like Spanish. So I'm sounding super ignorant right now, but
I don't know.
I'm sure you get mistaken for a lot of different things, but it's, you know, you have your own hills that you've had to cross to, you know, become the person you are. So never diminish that by what you haven't had to go through, because we all have our own crosses to bear, as they say. We all have our own, you know, things, and you're super inspirational, just general. Just because you're a good person. I could feel that, and I had barely even met you, and I was like, I'm gonna be her friend. And I don't make a whole bunch of friends. People like to talk to me. I don't know why, but I don't invite them to or seek them out.
You have really strong boundaries, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but I'm glad that you let me in.
You let me in. I started talking to you probably. I think I started bothering you first. I was like, she's cute, I'm gonna talk to her. Or they, sorry. I think you hadn't quite crossed. I know I wasn't aware of your different pronoun then when I met you.
And I think when I met you, I was primarily using they, them, theirs. So that also can be confusing. So yeah, but I use she, her, hers, or they, them, theirs. So both are validating and affirming to me. And I appreciate you saying that. And I think one of the things that has allowed me to, I think my hope is not to diminish, but it's really hard working in a field of nutrition, and it becomes about people's bodies. And one of my, I guess one of the big teachers that I like to learn more about is Kimberly Crenshaw, who talks about intersectionality, and which is like looking at the ways it's not just, you know, white and black, right and wrong. We all come with a certain levels of oppression and marginalization, along with different privileges in certain areas and social identities and how we show up in the world. So it's not just about our quote unquote race that might affect someone's experience in the world. And so I think I when I talk about or say unearned privileges, is I am continuing to unlearn the things that some people call it carried shame, like when you like do things and you didn't know, like, right, we're in I'm in my 30th or 33rd decade in life. There we go. It's like my 30s. And it's like my prefrontal cortex has been more so developed, and I can think about consequences. I can see the world in a different picture than say when I was in high school or a teenager. And you realize some of the things that you did and you said, and you're like, man, those were all the programming that we got from other places. And so in my third decade of life and being sober from alcohol for 4 or 5 years, I'm really seeing like, wow, there's a lot of things that we as humans don't know. And the ways that we are like ignorant to other folks' experience. And when I was trained as a dietitian, I was like, okay, you're going to help people and educate them about these things. And it's like a totally like, I understand we have to have a foundation, but when I actually worked with people, I realized that my lived experience was almost more important than the work that I learned, all the clinical stuff and medical stuff I learned. But yeah, being a breast cancer survivor, and actually I'm a rape survivor and other different types of trauma I've been through. And yeah, it's those are not things that are easy to talk about, but they're definitely part of my identity and part of my, like you said, resilience of going through life. So I think maybe that's why I'm easy to talk to because I'm open to talking about those things. And also I come from a place of woundedness, but also like, yeah, there is hope and there are ways to get through it. And sometimes it's unimaginable, like that I could even talk about some of those things. So thanks for naming those.
It's amazing how much trauma and parenting, which is scary because I am a parent, can form. I already apologized to my kids for however I fucked them up. I said, y'all are doing pretty good. But at some point you might turn 40 or something and look back and go, why did she do this to me? Or somebody that you're with, whoever your person might be, because I don't, whatever. I'm not putting limits on there.
Yep.
That's their life.
Nope. Yep.
Girl, boy, in between. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not my job to put limits. It's my job to love. So whatever you're doing over there. I'm not outing anybody. I don't know anybody's business.
Gotcha.
I'm not outing my children by any means. I don't know their business. And it could change. I don't know. That's how life works. Some people don't figure it out until they're 50 or something.
Yeah.
Anywho, I just know, that person might come up and be like, hey, your mom really messed you up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so like, I'm getting my second master's right now in marriage and family therapy. So it gets me like super thinking about, like, man, their mom really messed them up. And you start thinking about, man, my mom, like your parents were, my dad really, man, it's like there's so many, it's so formative. And then the things that you go through kind of shape not just your parents and grandparents and the weird lady at church that poked your stomach and said, aren't you?
Yes. All the things.
I still remember. I think she was special, which is why I let her make it. But my sister still even remembers it. My sister's even traumatized.
Wow.
My 5th grade teacher who said, hey, we're both puffy. And I was like, no. My 5th grade teacher who tried to get me to tell my mom to sign me up for some diet program while she herself was very fat. And I see where you are coming from in a place where you think you're being helpful, but also I'm 10 and I'm already.
Yes. I'm very against 10-year-olds and kids going on diets.
Oh, well,
specifically like putting them on apps. That's a whole nother topic, but I guess I'll just say that that's a very sensitive topic. And yes, I totally relate with that whole, I think, and when I became a dietitian, there was not as much mental health counseling training until like after I became a dietitian. And that's when you're like realizing, wow, yeah, the influences of things in the formative years, was there trauma? And then also because I'm not a trauma therapist, like I'm not talking about those things, but I have to be sensitive to those things. And then you're unwrapping like what happened to in your childhood, and you're like, wow. So for me, I don't think I said this yet, but I have complex PTSD, which is like childhood PTSD. And I still, like, I actually went inpatient this year. I don't know if I told you that, for my PTSD symptoms. And it's a whirlwind to be able to focus. I mean, I've been going to therapy for a very long time, but for some reason, some things popped off for me as, who knows if it was some of the anti-Asian, ongoing anti-Black stuff that has been going on, but my nervous system was out of whack and I chose to go inpatient because I was like, life is too challenging, and I had the insurance and I was like, I'm going, let's do this now. And so that was, definitely another big hill of like, whoa, there's a lot more with that complex PTSD than I even realized. And so it's not done since I'm out of inpatient, right? I'm still like doing my work. And it's like, there's a lot that we don't know about, like an individual's healing process. And I'm glad that when I talk with you, or like what you get from me includes like me trying to protect my spirit, because sometimes I feel like I'm a mess. Like, you're like going through a lot. Like, how are you even surviving? Versus like, I feel like I tend more towards the optimistic, like, you'll get through this, because I was raised like through a lot of survival mode situations. Like, we didn't have lots of food security. Like sometimes, bills weren't paid. And you go through life and you forget about those little things and how those impact you as an adult. So even if it wasn't something that was intentional done to you, like there's things that can accumulate to like these fears. And if you don't get to the root of them sometimes, like for me, it's like, wow, I'm working on these very like things that seem very small, rooted in my past from childhood. And I'm like, that's a thing? That's like really what's bothering me? Like, I know it's more complex than that, but sometimes that's the memory that we're working on in my trauma session. Like, it seems minimal, but there's some parts of myself that need that healing. And it's nice to be able to ask for help and support, because before it was like, I don't want to talk about it, or it seems too minimal to even address. So why are we going to go into that? So
I totally believe in therapy. I haven't gone to a lot of it myself. My mom tried to put me in it, I think when I was like 6th grade when my parents were getting divorced. And I just was like, I remember I remember feeling like they think I'm insane, right? Because I knew like, I was having a lot of stomach aches or whatever, which were probably, stress related or whatever. So, they tried to deal with it medically and things like that. It was probably just, a lot of stress and things like that. Because the digestive system can be, affected by stress. And you can hold so much inside your body and not even know it.
I was gonna say a side note, and then you have like people at church and like people doing weird things and poking your body. I'm like, I didn't even react to that earlier, but I just want to say F that shit.
She does. Oh my God. If my sister was here, which I'm gonna go meet her in a little bit.
Cool.
I remember she was so mad because the lady came up and she was like, oh, I'm not even gonna say it, but she poked my stomach, and I looked at her, and I was a child. So you're not supposed to talk crazy to adults, first of all.
Yeah.
And then I looked at her and I could tell she was probably some sort of special needs. So we let her make it. Like maybe she can't control that impulse to say the things that's on her mind. So
did your sister, she did it to your sister too, or your sister?
No, my sister doesn't have she don't have the same body problems as I do. My sister's tiny and gorgeous, and I'm not tiny and gorgeous. But my sister's ready to beat somebody else.
Yeah, she's like, she has sharp elbows.
my sister's ready to beat somebody up for me. So she was ready to beat up my 5th grade teacher too. She was like, I'm going up there, and I was like,
when you say 5th grade teacher, you mean your 5th grade teacher when you were in 5th grade, or like one that you're working with?
No, when I was in 5th grade.
And she's still teaching and still talking to people about their bodies? No,
I think she's dead, honestly, because I think I Googled her. But no, I still remember I remember her saying, no, we're both puffy or something like that. And I felt like she was trying to relate to me in some sort of way.
Yeah.
But also, don't fucking say it.
Yeah,
like, I already got to hear shit from kids and my doctor and my mom, and it's like, people say, were you bullied? And I was like, I don't know. I'm always the funny one. So I'm one, I could put that shit off. Like, I'm just like, whatever you say, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unsolicited body comments from
like, no, thank
people.
You. Yeah. You can keep that shit to yourself.
Yeah.
But, that kind of reminds me of the rule you chose, Big Girl Rule number 444, Misery Loves Company. And I'm not sure why you picked that, but you'll tell me. And also, maybe she was trying to be miserable with me. So it's like, I'm fat, you're fat, let's be fat. No, ma'am.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I mean, that's definitely like along that thing of, wow. I often think of like, when I think about my journey through therapy and becoming an adult and becoming my own person. I think people mean well, but there's a lot of subconscious things that are going on. And like you said, like that could really be real of what's going on, of like someone trying to identify like, oh, I'm puffy too. Because it's about them. It's not necessarily about you. It's more about like them feeling more comfortable or trying to relate, or like you said, like keeping you in their circle, keeping the image that I often get when I think about suffering and trying to individuate from something that's toxic is the cooking pot of crabs. Have you ever heard of that? where like the crabs are trying to get out of the pot, but
Mhm.
then like in the cooking pot, this is like a really bad example, but
It's
this is
so
what I
sad,
think
isn't
of.
it? They're so
Yeah,
good. I wish I
yeah.
didn't like crabs. Okay, go ahead.
Same. I love Dungeness crab. Like I grew
It
up
makes me
like
so sad.
getting it from the shore, and then I know. Okay, but going to the
Anyway.
symbolism of it, I think we're hungry now. The symbolism of like we're in the cook pot, we're in the boiling water, and the crab's trying to get away, but everyone's trying to bring us down. Like
Yeah.
they want you to stay with us. They want us because they're also trying to climb up, but we're all just like drowning and burn. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, but the whole
yeah,
idea
the
of
crabs
like,
in a
yeah,
barrel.
yeah,
Yes.
trying to get away. And how can we have compassion for like, it's not really intentional for them trying to harm others. When we're in survival mode, like when our nervous system, and there's quite a bit of study that I've done, like just stress response and things like that with nervous system, because if we're not in a place where we're nervous system regulator, they often call it like the window of tolerance. So sometimes we're in hyper arousal, where we're like stressed, where we like can't really focus. We're like in that fight or flight, or hypo arousal, where we're like so stressed that we're like numb and frozen.
Yeah.
So like when we're in those moments, we can't really be caring and loving and supportive and compassionate about other people. So it's hard because like we want to hate people who are very negative and are like saying things like that are unsolicited and trying to make you like feel better when it's totally not welcome.
Yeah.
And yet some of the like sometimes people are just rude, but oftentimes like there's that component of someone doesn't feel safe in their body. Someone doesn't feel safe in their life. When they go home, they have things that are like whatever. So when they're like being with real people, like whatever comes out of the mouth may not be the most compassionate. It's just really sad because a lot of us right now are just overwhelmed and stressed and feel unsafe with the environment of what's going on, legislation that's trying to be moved. And so that alone, just knowing that can affect our nervous system, regardless of what's happening at home. You know, like we can feel safe at home, we can have food on the table. And then when we step outside in the world, like subconsciously, if not consciously, like there's unsafety a lot of places.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Men all trying to dig in our uterus.
Yeah.
Don't even know the flavor. All in my uterus. It's so rude. I mean,
it is.
That's what I would say. It's like, it's not I'm pro-life for me, as it were. If I was to end up, this is the choice that I made to keep my children. But I haven't been in a position, thank God, thus far, that would put me in a position to have to think about, should I have this baby? Will I be able to take care of this? Well, I guess I was in a position of, will I be able to take care of this baby? Because I was 19 when I got pregnant with my first son, but I was determined to. I wanted to. My baby. That was my choice. But somebody else that had, trauma or just don't fucking want to. I don't know. It's not my business. It's not my business. So I would say I'm pro-life for me. But also when people are pro-life, they need to be pro-life for people's healthcare, pro-life for paying off these student loans so that people don't jump off a bridge because they can't pay for that shit. Pro-life, pro-life for feeding these children. Because I'm like, you can force me to have this baby. Are you gonna feed it? Is the government gonna pay me child support?
Pro-life with help, like using people's pronouns, because when you don't use pronouns, like that, unfortunately, is invalidating people and can lead to folks being on that uncomfortable and sometimes inevitable cycle of suicidal ideation because people can't even respect people's fucking pronouns, like or their identities. It's not just the pronouns, but just existence. And then I wanted to go back. So the Misery Loves Company. I think why I picked that one was the kind of like those unsolicited body comments. That's a really great example that was just like something I feel like needs to be said. Like, it's not that people are bad for having grief and having misery, but they stop projecting it onto other people.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to separate yourself when you're going through a moment. I had to learn that through friends. When I was dealing with romantic entanglements, I had no business because it wasn't really worth my time. but I was in a sad place. And my friends got tired of me being in that sad place. And eventually they were like, call me when you're in a better place. And at the time it kind of hurts, but then it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they're not like, I'm bringing you down. And it's like, I can listen to you, but I can only listen to you for so much. So they had to, you know, protect their spirit. And I understand, as somebody who people like to talk to, unsolicited, sometimes perfect strangers, which is weird because all my friends say I have resting bitch face, but yet everybody wants to have a conversation with me. And I was like, I don't know if it's the chubby cheeks or what, because I know I'm not just sitting there smiling and grinning like an idiot. So I don't know what makes you think I'm
that would be me.
My friends think the people that know me think I'm mean. So I don't know, but, but strangers think I'm nice, whatever. But I, you know, I take in, I'm somebody who like kind of absorbs other people's energy, and I start to feel it. And so I had to set up boundaries, and like, so it's like, I get it. Sometimes you have to tell people like, I love you, but not today. Or I can only do this for 20 minutes, you know, but it's like, that's kind of a thing that we do when we're sad or mad or whatever. We want other people to feel that too. It's like, I'm going through this. He broke my heart. Let's eat chocolate ice cream together and be sad together. Let's think about, you remember how Tony broke your heart too, or whatever, you know,
and turn on the music, the sad music, the playlist.
Yeah. You got to put on the sad music and the thing that's going to make you cry, which I do make myself cry from time to time, because I'm totally convinced. I'm starting to be convinced that like all my weight is just like tears that never came out. My kids think I'm weird, but I was just like, what if I just had one good ass cry and then I just like shrunk up like an Olsen twin? Oh, wouldn't that be amazing? Just want to be invisible.
It's super valid that we carry a lot, whether it's physical or energetically. Like, if we are not processing, I think that's kind of going back to like the trauma work and the childhood work, is like, there's so many things that affect us, that affect our thoughts and how we see the world today. And so some of those old things energetically or emotionally, like those things are still happening in our body. So, I mean, I feel like there's definitely the validity. I can see how letting yourself have a good cry or whatever is needed and letting those emotions flow can be part of like balancing like your body and your health. But I'm also not a therapist, so, but I can see what you're talking about. Like, makes sense to me.
I mean, I don't, you know, therapists are still just people. So we, you know, I'm not a therapist yet, but still, I don't think I would have all the answers at all. Really, because everybody's so different. You know what I mean? My kids want to take away my Disney Plus subscription, so I can't watch Bao. You know, that short film, like the Pixar, it makes me bawl. And so sometimes I get this mood, if I get
they want to cancel it just because of that.
Yeah, they don't want me crying. They're like, oh, there she goes. I go in a different room. If y'all choose to overhear, that's on you.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I just feel the need to cry, and if it won't come out on its own, I make it happen.
That's awesome.
I was like, I know this is in that movie Life with Martin Lawrence and Eddie Murphy. It's funny, but also it makes me cry, and I know it's gonna make me cry. And Tu Wong Fu, that movie always makes me cry. It's so sweet. It's a sweet cry, that one. It's like, oh, that's so sweet. Because have you seen that movie?
It's been a long time, but I'll have to watch it again, especially if I want to cry, it sounds like.
Because it's so sweet. Because then everybody's all accepted and stuff. And then, you know, Stalker Channing gets away from her raggedy ass husband. It's a sweet moment. And then, you know, like, they're all validating the fact that they, you know, they're all she's and stuff. And it's so cute. It's just so cute. It's just cute when people are like themselves and everybody's cool with it. It's just cute to me. Or like, have you ever watched Schitt's Creek?
Yes.
Yeah.
I watched the first few episodes at least.
When the wedding, which is in the last season, when David and his partner get married, that makes me cry too.
For people. Okay.
I mean, that was a long time ago. If you don't know at least that, like, that's on you.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
That show's off, but it's on Netflix. But that makes me cry because it's so sweet. And I always tell my kids, I'm gonna love you no matter what you love. Okay.
Yes. And they're like, okay, mom, like, go cry. You're good. I got you. Yeah.
Why are
I
you
was
keep
gonna,
talking about this? I'm like, I don't know. I just want you to know that I love you no matter what.
oh,
I don't care if you're gay. Oh, nobody's saying anything about being gay. Okay. I'm just telling you.
I
I'm
feel
not
like
saying you are. I'm just telling you.
when I
I
think
just have
about
to,
the mis, oh, go ahead.
I just really want my kids to feel accepted because I know a lot of
Yeah.
people don't.
Yeah. And you've experienced like small things that could lead to someone not loving themselves or being accepted, it sounds like,
It
too.
just makes me
And
sad when people aren't. It just makes me very sad. I'm like, how could you do that to your kid? Or how can you not love them anyway? Like, they're the same person. You know what I'm saying? And it's
yeah.
been a journey of understanding all the different pronouns and
Yeah. The ways
I
that
still
we're,
don't get all of it. I'm just like, you tell me what you want to be, and that's who you are.
yeah.
So it's like, whatever. Because I
Yeah.
know you don't ever really have to use a pronoun if you're talking directly to the person. So that works out good. It's like
Absolutely.
I did an interview when I was a manager. I had to interview someone, and they came up, and on the paper, their name was Scott.
Mhm.
When I met them in person, I wasn't sure if they were necessarily born Scott. I didn't know what
Mhm.
that situation was. So I just referred to them as Scott the whole time. I just talked to them in third person. I was like, so Scott, because I had my other manager with me too. So I'm just like, and Scott says, because I did not,
You
because
were trying to be
I didn't know yet
respectful.
how to ask, what is your pronoun? I didn't know how to do that. So after I asked one of my friends who worked there, and I was like, how do you ask somebody what do they want to be called? And he's like, you just ask. And I was like, okay, I didn't want to be rude and be like, are we he, she, they, what are we
Yeah.
doing? So I was just like, Scott here went to such and such school. Scott used to work, it was just easier. It's like, I just know that your name is Scott, and that's who you are above all of it. Nobody cares. Just tell me
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
is. So I try to
Yeah.
be super conscious of your, she, they, there. I don't know when
Mhm.
to use them all the time since you take both.
Yeah, with both, honestly, for me, if you use she, her, hers, or they, them, theirs, it's like either or. So meaning that I feel validated by and affirmed by both. So if you want to use she, her, hers the whole time today, that's absolutely welcome. If that's easy.
I
And
just
also
never
you
went
can
after.
use they, them, theirs. I know Thomas actually uses both, and I feel like he is really there's not really a right or wrong way to do it, but it's interesting when he will use the they, them, theirs, and I'm like, oh, he sees me. I don't have to ask him about it. It's really sweet because it is not a really straightforward thing to know about, especially if you don't experience being, non-binary or gender fluid. It makes sense that it's not easy to talk about or to use the different pronouns. And yet I feel like it's awesome that you are aware of it and want to be kind and ask about like which ones I use. And it's definitely been a journey because I didn't really consider using different pronouns or think about my gender fluidity until like the last 10 years, maybe the last 7 years, 5 years, I don't know. So it's a new experience for me, and also it's a nice journey for me to learn not only about myself but for other, like the history of why and when and why we haven't been using pronouns, and so or not identifying. I think because of all the violence against trans people, trans women, black women, there's this, for me, it seems necessary to learn and explore like what does that mean for me. And then as I started learning, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that this is a part of me and this is part of my identity that has been just dismissed or not even looked at because it's not part of my culture. I wasn't raised to even consider what gender is, and it wasn't because it was hidden from me. It's just not part of, like, one therapist described what I'm talking about, of like when you come home, if you always had a coat rack right next to the door, you would always put your coat on the on the certain hook. But if someone comes home and they don't have a coat rack and they never put their like coat on the, you know, on that hook, they wouldn't even look over there. They would just like go throw their coat on the couch or something. But if you always put your coat on that coat rack on that hook, and then it's not there, like you would notice, versus someone else might not, you know, it might not even matter. So I think for me, it's just like an ongoing process to discover, I guess, who I am spiritually and as a whole person, I guess.
We never really stop growing, like our brains don't. That's one of the things that I'm like literally studying right now, is just like the different stages of human development and cognitive development, and how it's, you never, there's always another stage. You know, like people think like it stops at adulthood, but it doesn't stop at adulthood. There's different stages to go through inside adulthood. And then we did a little study on like sexual identity and how children, you know, learn to identify themselves, and you know, whether, you know, why boys like to play with boys, why girls like to play with boys, you know, and when that kind of switches, you know, might switch up, and, you know, in adolescence or something, when they start to figure out who they are as a person. And, you know, maybe it's a boy who likes to play with Barbies and a girl who likes to play with trucks, or whatever, you know, what it is. Like, toys are toys. I don't know why people have that conversation. It's so stupid. I've seen this thing recently where people are like, my son wants a kitchen set, but somebody said it's gay. And I'm like, who the hell is cooking your food though? When you, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, do you not expect him to cook at some point in time? Wouldn't you want him to do it well? Have you heard of like pretty much every well-known chef in the world is a dude or some variation thereof? You know what I'm saying? I'm just like,
all people are allowed to
like,
cook.
Why do you have to put that label on that kid? You know, it's just like, who gives a fuck? Like, my son used to want a kitchen set and I bought him one, and then he decided he didn't want it, so then I took it back, and then later he was like, I do want it, and I was like,
you
I
lost
didn't
a
have
chance.
that kind of money to be going back and forth with you. You have a real kitchen.
Money or
Please
time.
go cook. You can go cook. They like to cook. That's fine. Because like they're gonna have to eat. I was like, that is such a weird thing. Well, and I saw somebody says like, well, it's not like he asked for a Barbie. And I'm like, what if he did? What if he's a fashion designer? What if he feels like a woman? Who cares?
What if he just wants
like,
to wear pink and doesn't matter? Like, it doesn't, like, it's not relating to his sexuality. He just wants to wear fucking pink. Like,
he's a child.
Yeah, let it happen.
A kid. They're not supposed to worry about sexuality right now. Just let them do. They're just figuring. Shut up. Like, I don't understand that whole situation. It's like, who gives a fuck what your baby? I'm like, if you can afford it, just give it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know there's always been this big thing, like boy section, girl section in a toy store. I'm like, if you want to take your child who's a boy into the pink section, take them over there. I would. I don't give a fuck. I want a Barbie. Okay. I mean, that's not my kid's journey, but if it was, cool.
Yeah.
That's like, you know, they like Legos, which is for everybody. Like,
yeah.
like who really gives a shit? I don't remember what I was talking about before that, but I feel like I was talking about something.
We were talking about misery loves company, and I think what's funny about this is I feel like there's like a spectrum. Like, it's great to express our feelings and have a good cry and watch a movie. I don't feel like that's all just misery, but like when you think about misery loves company, I feel like when I chose that one, this is something I'm trying to be aware of, and of just how, when I go into a room, when I hang out with friends, what is my energy and what is my intention, regardless of like what other people are going through. Like, am I stuck in, not necessarily misery, but if I'm going into a place in a zone where I'm like not in the mood and I'm bringing other people down, or we don't make others feel certain things. But if we are in that place of going into, like, I know I have the experience to and can go into like drama talk, or I call it gossip vomiting, like drama vomiting, where it's just like talking shit for no reason, and then you're done and you're like, why did I just do that? Like, that felt really gross. Like, that is not, like, people use the word toxic, right, or whatever, and for me, I'm like, it's just straight misery. Like, we are when we start talking about certain things, it's like, yes, those things are valid. And for me, I have to be really protective of like where my conversation is going, because I can dive into this like ugly mess and then like go home and be like, what just happened? And sometimes when people are talking, or I guess I'll say sometimes for me, when I'm talking with other folks about like gossip and we start getting into it and then we start piling those different stories and kind of get into that gossip talk, I feel like that becomes that misery loves company of like, well, if we can keep shitting on this other person over here, then we're going to feel really good. And initially that wasn't really our intention, but it can become a path or a vibration that we get into of like, I don't know if that makes sense, but like, I feel like it's an old pattern that I don't want to keep doing because I don't feel
People
like
do it a lot.
helpful. Yeah.
People do it a lot. And in general, that's what the internet's about. That's, if
true.
I can talk shit about, and I won't because I love Khloe, but if I could talk shit about Khloe Kardashian, then I can feel better about myself. You know what I mean? But I would not, because I love Khloe. I love all the Kardashians. I don't care what anybody says. You can talk about them if you want, but I enjoy them. They seem like cool people and I would hang out with them. They have something.
Yeah.
We all have a valid story. It doesn't matter if they want to get poked and prodded and make all the money. And people say, oh, they don't have any like talent. And I'm like, who's a millionaire? You? No.
Yeah.
They're doing something. Who cares?
It's really easy to kind of poke when folks are in the spotlight. And I think for me, whenever I kind of get into that mode of like judging or criticizing or going to the gossip, I like to invite myself, it doesn't always happen, but to put a mirror up, like, what is it about this that makes you feel so entitled to have a judgment about it? And it will be like, oh, it's because I'm really having a bad body day and I'm just used to like shitting on other people. So I don't have to, anyway, the stories are endless, but I feel like that's one way that has helped me to get away from that misery loves company attitude of like, yes, it's okay to talk and to grieve and to name something that we like or don't like. But if we stay in that energy, like if I stay in that energy, that's not good for me.
Yeah. My kids will just say, Mom, everybody's beautiful.
And you're like, well,
I guess. You can say that. They're beautiful.
Definitions of beauty.
But I will tell you, if you become a teacher, stay out of the teacher's lounge, because that's one thing I don't like to do is hang out with people in lounges, because that's usually where they go and they sit and talk trash about the administration or the kids, because the kids be doing the absolute most, and it's so easy to get stuck in that. And then you go to your next class and you're looking at the same kid, the same little boy. And then it's hard to treat them. It's hard to put that smile on and treat them normal, because you just reminded yourself what they did yesterday.
That's interesting. I never thought about that, because in the break room where I worked at the hospital, that's also where I would get, I would go for peace of mind and just to break from my office to get like cut the energy. Like I want to go do something separate. But that's where some weird toxic things would happen, because people are letting loose and they're relaxing, but it's not things that I could have repelled at the time. So like shit that you're like, they said something wrong, or I learned something about a client that I'm like, wait, was I supposed to hear that?
Probably not. You know what I mean? Yeah, totally. I would stay in my classroom and eat my lunch. I tend to just make friends with one person, and sometimes we commiserate, but if I can't laugh when I do it, it's usually funny to me. And then we go into the next class and we do look at that kid and we go, I remember you. But then you laugh because you think about that picture that your teacher mate showed on your phone that looks like that kid. Maybe you're like, he does look like that. No. But that's generally where I would stay. I stay out of lounges, because that's where people talk the most trash, is their off time from work. I don't smoke, so I don't have to do that. But if I was a smoker, I'd probably stay out of that too. When I first started and I was teacher assisting, I had one of the teachers that I assisted, I would eat with her sometimes because we wouldn't talk about anything and she didn't have negative energy with me. I don't know. Or I would just go sit in my car.
Yeah.
because I didn't have my own classroom. But whenever I have my own classroom, that's where I shall be, away from people. It's just better. That's why I don't get close to people that I work with, and I try to tell them that, because if I do, then I'm just going to start feeling your negativity, and then I feel your negativity, and I'm not going to want to go to work because I don't want to be miserable. I already don't want to work because I don't feel like that's my purpose in life. But but I extra don't want to be here when you hate it too. You know what I mean? And it's easy to fall into that pattern with coworkers, to where you hate it, I hate it, I'm poor, you're poor. Let's all be poor together. And talk about it. And then you go home and you go through the traffic and you're like, you know, and it just becomes a thing. And then it's hard to go to work ever again. So I choose to separate myself. I can go months without ever talking to anybody who's not my boss. Like I don't have to talk to you. And I tell people, sometimes I just tell them I'm shy, but sometimes I'm just like, look, I absorb your energy. And if your energy is negative, I can't with it, you know?
Yeah.
Just you keep that over there. And when I'm feeling negative, I stay in my classroom because I know I'm about to talk some shit.
Exactly.
And it's gonna be me. It's gonna be me. And I don't want it to be me. That's why I gotta stay home today, because it's gonna be me.
I gotcha. Yeah.
It's to tell me, because I could talk to you all day long, but I won't. But I would talk to you again whenever you're free. I want to make sure I talk to you today. Tell me more about like where we can find you online. And all that good stuff.
So on Instagram, I am at sound_RD_. So sound, nutrition, and body. And then my website is soundrd.com. So it's for a registered dietitian. So soundrd.com, you can find me on my website. So those are kind of the two main hubs that folks will find me online.
Do you still do the tarot readings?
I do. I actually
have you do that.
I was gonna say I have some cards next to me because I was gonna offer. I got a new deck if you wanted to do a reading before we go.
Okay.
Just a quick one. But yeah, I do tarot reading, and something I didn't mention is I do public speaking, like speaking at different conferences and stuff. So those are some things that folks can look up if they're looking for a speaker or just looking to find out more about what I do. They can check me out on my website or Instagram.
Yes, and also you'll be able to find her on my website, www.abigirlsguide.com. And I will definitely put all the information I can find about you. Send me a bio, all that good stuff, and I will put everything in the pictures. Okay. Well, thank you
Before
so
we
much.
Go, can I mention my last thing? I told it's funny
totally.
Because earlier I was like, if you forget, then it's okay. But I realized I forgot. So one thing that is going on for my private practice that folks might see either on Instagram or on my website is I'm offering a virtual group called A Place to Land. Okay. And I am offering this virtual group with another dietitian. Her name is Liz Brinkman, and she has her own private practice. And we both specialize and focus on eating behaviors, disordered eating disordered body image. And the group is aimed for folks who are working on the relationship with foods or body. So if anyone's interested in learning more about that, we have an ongoing group so folks can sign up and apply and or ask questions about that. We would love for you to join us. It's all virtual.
Oh, hey, I meant to ask you that was going to be, I didn't know if that was for the holiday things. I remember it happening during like Thanksgiving, where obviously people are going to be hungry. And then I was going to ask you if you were doing again for, the other holidays, Hanukkah, Christmas and whatnot, where people again will be eating. But it's an ongoing situation.
So we do like a week of 6-week cohort. So we'll kind of have, right now we're in our 3rd week, and then we'll be like, our hope is to continue, as long as folks are interested, to continue to do like 6 weeks, and we take a week off and really do 6 more weeks. And so we like the idea of bringing folks together in community, especially during this time where, we're not in person, nor do a lot of us feel safe to go in person because of COVID and whatnot. So the groups are small groups. They're like maybe 3 to 4 or 5 people. And we it's called a place to land because in, I'll say, clinical nutrition and things that we do with our quote unquote professional hat, it's very structured around like what we can talk about. And this is the place where if someone's working on their relationship with food, instead of talking about the steps of how to eat well or how to cook something, we're really talking about real life, what's coming up for them, and then also practicing different ways of regulation or like meditation, things that help us find center, like a place to land, so emotionally and energetically. So it's not about education and learning all these things, it's more so coming in as a community and talking about topics that are relevant to what's going on with us with our relationship with food and body. So it's a little bit, some people might call it a support group, and I feel like we offer some, like I said, some focused things on meditation or whatever type of regulation practice. So that's what we do.
Okay,
And yeah,
awesome.
it'll be
I will
ongoing.
share that information too.
Cool.
Awesome. Oh, thank you, Malou. Thank you, Maria Lourdes. Such a pretty name.
Yes.
You're so
Thank
gorgeous.
you, Jen. Oh, you are too. You're such a bright light, and I love talking with you. Did you want a card before we go?
Yeah, give me a card.
Okay. So what do you know about crows and ravens? What do you feel about them?
Quoth the raven nevermore. I don't know. They're black. Edgar Allan Poe.
What I love, so this person who created this deck is called the Urban Crow. Show you the like cover. Yeah, Oracle, and she talks about just she's inspired by like books about crows and like how smart they are and like how they're one of the things in urban society that still connects us to nature without us being out in the forest. And so, and just all the different antics that they do, they're really smart. And so like in the cards, there's like different messages about them. And I just like that story because I grew up around a lot of crows, and especially having cats, they have like conversations and they remember you. And then there's people who are like, oh, there's the crow lady, like people who like invite crows into their yard. It's not just women, but people will say things like that. And when I've been out here in Arizona, there's not as many of those type of crows that I saw back in Washington State, but I saw these huge ravens that are, they're from the, I can't even say it right. It's Chihuahuan ravens, and they are huge. And those are like the main like blackbirds that I've seen out here. But anyway, I love checking out what animals and birds and whatever are in nature. And so I'm going to see if there's any messages for Jen today, if that's cool.
Arizona has a lot of nature.
A lot of dry desert nature.
From what I've seen on TV, I don't know, I've never been there. I keep threatening to move out there, but I don't know because it feels very racist. But no. And I mean, and I do live in Texas, so I don't know.
Yes.
It just, I don't know. I was
it's
like,
yeah, it's more hot
here. It's more hot over there too.
Oh my gosh! The other day, it's 76 degrees here, like during the day, or it was the other day, and I was wearing a flannel with a button up because people are wearing, all covered up, and I didn't notice it was 76 degrees until I was like, why is it so hot? And I looked at the temperature and I'm like, everyone else is all bundled up, and for me, I'm like, I'm in a tank top and shorts.
Yeah.
I'm just not acclimated still. So
wow, I can't imagine that being cold. That sounds great.
What's the temperature right now for y'all? Pretty cold.
I know. It's like,
normal.
Let's see what it is. It's like, let me look at my phone. 74, 71, something like that. It's in the 70s. Yeah, okay. It's a warm winter.
Okay.
Winter hasn't come to Texas yet.
Does it usually come in January, February, or it's random?
Yeah, it's global warming. So
yeah, it's on that timeline.
Last year we had snowstorms in February, January. This year, who knows? It might be balmy and tropical. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah. So the first card you got, can you see that?
Memory.
It says memory, and
Uh-oh.
I'm still building relationship with these cards, so I'm going to use the book just to get their interpretation. And it says, crows never forget a friend or a foe. In a changing populated landscape, these remarkable birds recognize the faces of those who have hurt as well as helped. When a crow spots a predator or known human who has been less than kind, they go into a frenzy, calling out to all that danger is near. They spread the word about the good stuff too, such as people who tend to share their lunch or places where food is often discarded. What is remarkable is they also pass down the memory of their experience to their young. As complex as these birds are, forgiveness does not seem too likely. Memory asks you to examine areas where you may be letting a past hurt or situation impact how you engage with someone today. Are you cautious or are you holding a grudge? Do you expect others to behave in a certain way because of past behavior? Interesting.
I forgive, but I do not forget.
I kind of like what we were talking about today. Like, Jen has strong boundaries, so back up and watch out.
But I'm always right though. When people are raggedy and I feel that they're raggedy, I'll be nice, if everybody else around me wants to be nice, but I'm always proven correct. You are a raggedy person. I can feel it. But if somebody is good to me, I will always share your things.
I love it. So the second card is the last card, was play. It says, crows are not always so serious. They enjoy the company of friends and spend time engaging in play. When this card appears, it is time to relax, which it sounds like we do some fun stuff tonight. It says, relax, exercise your creative mind and maybe your body too, and play. When we give our brains something different to consider, something that brings us joy will reward us by being more productive when it comes time to go back to work.
I don't want to go back to work, but yay.
I know. Don't bring up the work part. If you want me to play. Well, thanks so much, Jen.
Thank you. It was so great to talk to you. I could talk to you all day long, which is the problem, because then I don't know how to cut it off, because I could always talk to you.
Very true. And I know you're going to have lots of fun tonight, so I look forward to hearing about it. And
for sure. I'm going to make myself take pictures. I don't know what this is going to do, but we'll find out.
Okay. Let's just be people together, and how can we help each other thrive?